The Road to Wealth by Suze Orman book review. I'm kicking off a popular personal finance book reviews by reading Suze Orman, whose stuff I had never previously read. Suze Orman is as big a name brand in personal finance content as you can find. And weirdly, or maybe not weirdly, I've never read her stuff. I have a vague impression of seeing her face on TV doing something 15 years ago. I'm not really sure. Anyway, Road to Wealth. I have personally assigned myself the project of reviewing some popular finance books, and one of Orman's seemed as good a place to start. The format of this one, which stretches to 582 pages, could easily double as a powerful doorstep on a windy day, is a series of more than 2,000 questions asked and answered by Orman. In Orman's introduction, she clarifies that a central premise in her previous books, again, none of which I've read up until now, is that emotional and psychological factors are just as important as financial knowledge to doing it right in your personal financial life, and I strongly agree. She clarifies that this book, The Road to Wealth, is a complement to those more emotionally grounded books. This one will focus more on the knowledge plus common sense side of decision making. So why review personal finance books? One of my most deeply held beliefs is that there is only one good form of financial content because there's only one format that is designed to last for decades, the correct time period for financial decision making. The usual content formats we consume, TV, radio, podcasts, newspapers, magazines, blogs, financial sites, Reddit, X, Instagram, TikTok, all share this in common. The shelf life of the information can be measured in hours or weeks at best, rarely in months. This is the premise of a TEDx talk I did a few years ago. While most financial content is stale by the next month, books have a shelf life of, say, 3 to 30 years. Personal financial decisions should be made with a view to what will happen in 3 to 30 years. Personal financial decisions should almost never be made on what will happen hours or weeks or even months from now. As a result, books are the only good form of financial content. And yes, in a meta sense, like, is a Substack email a good form of financial content? I don't know. Probably not. So that's part of why I'm reviewing Suze Orman's work in book form. As a book, The Road to Wealth does not have a narrative. Its closest analogy is to an encyclopedia reference book through questions and answers. The right way to engage with it, therefore, is to probably skip forward to the section that you most need at the time you need it. Her topics in order are managing debt, financial intimacy, home ownership, insurance, paying for college, retirement planning, mutual funds, stocks, bonds and bond funds, annuities, and wills and trusts. Her first chapter on managing debt is extremely sensible. She outlines the psychological traits many people have that lead them to overspending or carrying balances month to month. She gets into the detailed differences between charge cards, credit cards, and debit cards. This first section on debt covers everything, really, including bankruptcy, collections, the specifics of IRS and student loan debt. She gets deep in the weeds on these topics. But if they don't concern you, you can skip forward to other questions or other topics in other chapters. One of the strengths of this book, although maybe a weakness for some readers, is that she is highly informed and detailed on the literal legal questions of finance. In the financial intimacy section, for example, the level of detail on prenups, communal property states, and joint liability debts is one you would ordinarily only get from a pretty in-depth conversation with a lawyer. So the wills and trust chapter in revocable living trust, for example. In the chapter on wills and trust, there's an entire law school semester's level of detail and nuance there. A reader of this section could get, like 90% of their questions answered in advance of hiring an attorney to finish their documentation process. For a do-it-yourself person, this kind of detail may be exactly what they crave for understanding their finances. As a non-lawyer, I do find myself wondering things like, what exactly is a revocable living trust and why do people have them? That's its own series of questions and answers in this book. In fact, Orman is quite adamant that people need a revocable living trust for nearly all of their assets with the goal of reducing or avoiding probate, time, and costs after their death. There are 15 pages of questions and answers on revocable living trusts. I don't have one of these revocable living trusts for my own household, but Orman's emphasis on them is actually giving me some food for thought. Annuities chapter. I was pleased to see that Orman and I are in total, full concordance on annuities, to which she dedicates a whole chapter and 78 separate questions and answers. Her main answer, given in the introduction to the chapter on annuities, is, quote, "It's important to understand what annuities are and how they work, for without a doubt, and probably sooner rather than later, a broker or insurance agent will try to sell you one. Although there are circumstances in which buying an annuity may make sense, in a majority of cases, I believe that annuities cause more harm than good," end quote. Total agreement. She goes on to write, quote, "Frankly, I take a dim view of annuities, yet in a few cases, they make excellent financial sense," end quote. That is kind of the spirit of the book right there. She has a view, but is also willing to get very comprehensive and detailed in her answers, even about things she thinks we could do without. So my verdict on Suze Orman's Road to Wealth, I like it. Orman's work is extremely detailed and correct. I'm pretty critical of many finance books and have zero hesitation getting snarky when necessary. I can't get snarky about Orman's book because her answers are really good. They're wise, accurate, comprehensive. So one other final thought, what about AI? One thing we can say about personal financial decisions is that very little changes in terms of knowledge you need from year to year. I only partly joke sometimes that everything you need to know about personal finance was covered by an amateur financial writer named Benjamin Franklin in his 1758 book, The Way to Wealth. It holds up quite well, actually. And I wonder if Benjamin Franklin's The Way to Wealth is being referenced in Orman's title, The Road to Wealth. It seems like a pretty, close tie. Anyway, something that absolutely has changed since Orman's book first came out in 2001 is that you can just ask your favorite AI service any of these 2,000 questions, and the AI answer will be basically correct. Not just because all of Orman's writing informs the bots, but also because thousands of other personal finance books also feed the bots. And if what you're looking to solve financially can be articulated in a discrete question, ChatGPT can give you the answer, then further examples, and then can say it another way, all until you completely get it. I claimed at the top of this post that the only content provider I trust for personal financial rules and wisdom are book authors. But to replace a book like The Road to Wealth by Suze Orman, because its structure is just 2,000 plus questions and answers, you probably could ChatGPT your way instead. If you've got a book you'd like me to review or you think is great, send me a note. Thanks. Bye.